Welcome back to Microphone Family, the podcast where we hand the microphone to talk about the policy, society, and family in mainland China. I'm your host, Javen. Maybe a lot of our audiences have watched the recent news. A young woman in her early 20s studying at Tsinghua University already becoming a mother while still pursuing her degree. This news instantly caught people's attention, not only because it sounds unusual, but because it challenges a common assumption that young, highly educated people will automatically delay or avoid childbirth. Therefore, it says a lot about how differently young people can think about family and reproductive choices from our imagination. To understand that, we need to look at mainland China's broader context. For decades, China has moved from the one-child policy to the two-child policy and now to the three-child policy. One of the biggest reasons behind the three-child policy is simple. Because of the fewer births, China is facing a rising dependency ratio and the long-term burden of the 4-to-1 family structure, where one young person may need to support 2 parents and 4 grandparents. Also, with the shrinking workforce, the pressure on the social welfare system keeps growing, and the long-term economic growth becomes harder to sustain. So, China needs more young people and more workers. That is why the government introduced the three-child policy to encourage more births and ease these long-term pressures. But if we look at the numbers, the policy has not made a very big difference so far. In 2021, China had 10.62 million births. In 2022, that number dropped to 9.56 million. So instead of rebounding, fertility kept falling. So in today's episode, we want to ask, how do urban Gen Z react to the three-child policy in mainland China? Urban Gen Z refers to people born between 1997 and 2012 who live in urban areas. We focus on the urban Gen Z because this generation is entering or approaching the main childbearing years. They are shaped by the digital age, intense competition, financial uncertainty, and changing ideas about family and freedom, especially for Gen Z who live in the urban areas. So their views matter because they are not just opinions, but they are a preview of how fertility, family structure, and policy may evolve in the future. And with that, let's hear from our urban Gen Z guests about their opinion of three-child policy in mainland China. Welcome our first guest, Alex, who is a 24-year-old man working in a state-owned enterprise. Good morning, Alex, and welcome you to our podcast. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners first?
Thank you, Javen, and good morning, everyone. I'm Alex, a very normal urban Gen Z man now working in an SOE. I'm here to explain why my generation isn't buying what this three-child policy is selling.
Oh, that's really interesting. Before we go deeper, I want to ask one thing first. So, when you say you don't buy the three-child policy, how much of that comes from where you work? In other words, is this mostly a job issue, a city issue, or both?
Well, okay, so now let me first be specific about what sector. Because where you work fundamentally and exactly shapes how you experience the policy. And for me, I work as a state-owned enterprise, and one of my friends works at a multinational corporation. We're same age, same city, same Gen Z, but our realities are completely different. My friend's company gives 20 days of paid annual leave, flexible hours, and actual paternity leave. But I only get the legal minimum, which is 5 days of annual leave that I'm literally discouraged from using.
Oh, I see. So, if we compare your SOE job with your friend's MNC job, what does the pressure actually look like in daily life? And some recent research on workplace stigma and fertility intentions in China suggests that even when leave policies exist, people may still hesitate if they feel taking leave will hurt their career. So, I want to ask, does the paternity leave really take effect in your company and affect your fertility intentions?
Yeah, sure. So for paternity leave, truly it exists. Your project don't wait and your manager remembers who took too much time off. So when the state says have 3 kids, my friend hears my company has systems that could actually support that. But I heard I've been working overtime to afford kids I've never seen. The policy is the same. the infrastructure to make it livable is completely unequal. And that's before we even talk about salary differences. His global pay scale means 3 kids is still a stretch, but my SOE pay scales means 3 kids is a fantasy. Then there's the geography and class. I'm a first-generation city dweller, and I don't have the intergenerational wealth buffer to soften economic shocks. The family pressure to procreate is weakening because the math simply doesn't work in a city.
That's a good point. So besides work and city life, are there any other real-life factors affecting you?
Definitely yes. And this is what intersectionality becomes essential. It's not a work sector or geography or class in isolation. It's a collision. I work in an SOE with rigid hours and limited leave, and I live in an expensive city with no family support network. For my friend at the MNC had flexibility but faces different pressures. For instance, job insecurity, constant restructuring, and so on. The three-child policy sits right at these collision points, magnifying the gap between what the policy promises and what different workplaces actually enable. So my main argument is that for urban Gen Z men, the three-child policy is not a meaningful intervention. It's a performative signal completely divorced from workplace and economic reality. It exposes the unsustainable collision between the policy's demand, the unequal infrastructure across different work sectors, and the crushing cost of urban life. So we are not being selfish, we are being actuarial. We are looking at our work contracts, our rent, our commute, our completely lack of family nearby, and the equation doesn't balance. The policy asks for 3 children, but my SOE job can only afford myself.
Thank you very much for insightful sharing, Alex. What you are really saying is that the policy doesn't run into one job problem, it runs into a whole system problem. Work, income, leave, city costs, and family support all shape whether people actually want children, right?
Yeah, sure.
And that brings us to the next part of the podcast. We've heard how workplace structure shapes the fertility decisions. But what about the young people who are still in school, still shaping their future and thinking about what kind of life they want? So I would love to hear how someone at the beginning at the adulthood see this policy, who is not from the perspective of workplace pressure, but from the perspective of future expectations, family values, and personal choice. And that's why I want to bring in our next guest, Leo, a 19-year-old mainland student at HKU. Welcome, Leo.
Thanks, Javen. I'm Leo, a 19-year-old university freshman at HKU from mainland. Well, I think our general response can be summed in one word: indifferent. Last week, we ran a quick poll at university students' attitude towards the current three-child policy. When asked about their general stance, 38 out of 54 response chose neutral, which basically means that they're not exactly supportive but not against it either. I think that's the kind of vibe overall. So yeah, we're not opposing the three-child policy, but we're not really supporting it either. And for most of us, it's definitely not pushing us to have 3 kids.
Well, you mentioned that your overall response is indifferent. So I found that really interesting, especially your survey on university students showed a very similar pattern. So out of 54 respondents, 38 choose neutral, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So what do you think makes so many students feel that way? Is it just that the policy feels distant from your current life, or is there something deeper behind that indifference?
I think for our generation, it's more about being honest with what we want for ourselves. Not in a selfish way, just that we grow up being told you can become anyone you want, you can follow your own passion, your life is yours. And we actually believe in that. So when it comes to having kids, let alone 3, the first question isn't, will this benefit the country, or what will my parents think? It's, do I even want this for my life and for myself? And for a lot of us, the honest answer is not really, or at least not right now. Like, we value freedom, such as career freedom, location freedom, or time freedom. We want to travel, to switch jobs, maybe move to another city on a whim. Having one kid already changed that equation. 3, that's a whole different lifestyle, one that doesn't leave much room for myself. So when the three-child policy comes up, most of us just shrug. It's not that we are against it, but it's also not something we are going to change our life for. Because at the end of the day, our decision about kids isn't about policy. It's about whether having one child fits into the life we want to build for ourselves.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about rejecting the policy, it's about protecting a kind of life that you want for freedom and self-realization?
Yeah, certainly.
So then, before we move on, is there anything else you think is shaping this indifference? Maybe it's not only for freedom, but also the fact that the future itself feels so hard to predict?
Well, I think another important concern is the uncertainty of future. See, we are now in a time when the world is ever-changing. You literally cannot predict what will happen even a decade from now. And that uncertainty hits you in real, practical ways. For example, remember how crazy popular civil engineering majors were a few years back?
Oh yeah, I remember it. At my time, everyone thought it was a golden ticket, which means stable jobs and good income.
Yes, for sure. But for now, the landscape has shifted. The real estate market cooled down, infrastructure projects slowed, and a lot of graduates are now facing a tougher job market than they expected. And that's not their fault at all. It's just how quickly things can change. So when you see that happens, you cannot help but think, how can anyone feel confident about guaranteeing a child a stable life when even a few that seem so secure can turn uncertainty so fast? That's exactly why my generation is hesitant. And honestly, I feel the same hesitation just from going through the Gaokao myself. It wasn't a nightmare for me, but it was a lot. It means years of studying, you have limited free time, and the quiet pressure of knowing every point matters. You have to become the top students among your peers to get into a top university like those in Project 985 or 211 or like in HKU. But that a top degree isn't a guarantee for a satisfying job in future. Even if I haven't experienced it by myself, since I'm just a freshman, I've seen enough from seniors, from views, from the anxiety that floats around the campus. So, between a shaky job market and unpredictable shifts and the nature of pressure from exams and employment, having 3 kids doesn't feel realistic. 1, maybe much later if things feel stable for me, but 3, that's a lot of unknowns to sign up for.
Thanks, Leo, for sharing, and thanks, Alex, as well. That's actually a really important point, because what you've been saying sounds like more than just I don't want kids. It sounds like many young people are trying to be honest about what they can actually promise to themselves and to the child. So, well, at the same time, other Gen Z may also have the similar opinion. What about let's listen into the opinion from a Gen Z young girl?
Do you plan to have a kid in the future? No, never. I can give birth to one, but I don't think I'm able to raise him well. It's not just about money. I also need to keep him company and teach him how to be a good person.
That was a really important point. What this clip shows is not simply that some young people don't want children, it's that many of them feel a strong sense of responsibility. They worry that if they cannot give a child enough money, enough care, and enough emotional support, then it may be better not to have one yet. And that tells us for many urban Gen Z, childbirth is not just a personal dream, it is also a serious commitment. And that brings us to our next question. For people who already have children, is raising a child really as costly as many young people believe? And more importantly, do the subsidies and support policies actually make a difference? Then, to urban Gen Z who already have the children listening to our live podcast, we'd like to hear your opinion on that matter. And after giving birth, do you think you will have more children in the future under the current 3-child policy? Oh, it seems like we have some listeners who are calling in. Hi, this is Javen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, Javen. Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here on this podcast with you. My name is Aura. I'm a 29-year-old mother of a 2-year-old daughter. I was listening to Microphone Family in my car just now and heard that clip about the immense pressure young people face raising children. It really resonated with me. Only after becoming a mother did I realize how much responsibility and challenge it involves. Beyond the financial and emotional burdens, I would like to say that childbirth also has a huge impact on women's career development.
Hearing all of that, I want to ask from your own experience, where exactly does it feel hardest for women?
Yes, I want to focus on how pregnancy affects career planning. Many women of childbearing age get asked in interviews, "Are you married? When do you plan to have kids?" Before my maternity leave, I was worried that my business scope would change or my position would be replaced. I was lucky to have a supportive leader, so reworking was manageable. But this is a real dilemma many women face. In traditional families, having children often means women take on more domestic responsibilities or even give up their careers entirely. So I completely understand why many women choose not to have children for the sake of their careers.
Yeah, that really resonates. So, given how much you've had to carry, do you ever look back and think, well, maybe I shouldn't have become a mother?
I've thought about it, but no. If I could do it all over again, I would still choose to have her because the experiences are irreplaceable. Watching her grow, rolling over, crawling, taking her first steps, it's like watching a little life slowly develop her own thoughts. So yes, raising her is hard work, but the experience she gives me are irreplaceable.
So with that in mind, let me bring it back to the three-child policy itself. So do you think this policy is actually relevant to women like you? Or does it still feel too far away from real life?
From my perspective, the policy had good intentions. Since implementation, the government has introduced longer maternity leave, parental leave, tax breaks, and some cities even provide housing or cash subsidies for multi-child families. All these are positive steps, but most mothers around me feel that while these subsidies help, they are far from enough. Problems like uneven policy implementation, insufficient welfare, and economic pressure still remain. If we truly want people to stop being afraid of having children, we need better policy implementation. We need to let fathers share childcare and end workplace discrimination. Only when families, society, and government share the responsibility of raising children can we ease current anxieties. So I believe the three-child policy is a good start, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, that's true. And finally, looking at your own life now, would you personally consider a second child or even a third one under the current policy environment?
No. Honestly, I don't even dare to seriously consider a second child, let alone a third. A second child is not in my current life plan. But I still hope that our listeners can seriously consider their own plans for having children. After all, watching a life grow is a truly important experience. And I want to ask our listeners, in what areas should we make changes? So the three-child policy is not just a slogan or pressure, but truly becomes a choice everyone can seriously consider.
Oh, that was such an honest and thoughtful sharing. What really stands out to me is that your hesitation was never about rejecting children themselves, it was about responsibility. You were describing how raising a child means more than money, it also means time, emotional energy, and the ability to give that child a stable life. Thank you, Aura, and have a good day.
Goodbye.
So hearing from all of your guest speakers, I think we can see why many urban Gen Z do not respond to the policy with excitement of resistance, but with something more complicated, which is a kind of careful weighing. And today's conversation has shown that for many urban Gen Z in China, the third-child policy is not in order. What other real stuff they are worried about is the economic pressure, career uncertainty, and evolving values about freedom and self-realization. More importantly, their indifferent stance is not a sign of empathy. For many of them, it actually reflects a new kind of responsibility. If the economic burden is too heavy, if social support is too weak, and if their own future is still uncertain, then they feel it may be more responsible not to bring a child into that situation. In that sense, their reluctance is not simply about refusing the family life. It is about refusing to make a child bear the cost of unstable conditions. So when a society makes urban Gen Z think that they must choose between giving birth and living their own life well, the declining rate of fertility is the inevitable answer. As we think about the future, the key question is no longer just what does the state allow, but what do individuals actually want, and under what conditions can they realize those choices. That's why we want to invite you, our listeners, to take part in our forum. Given current policies, what adjustments do you think will help to increase the effect of third-child policy of mainland China? Have you noticed a blind spot the policymakers haven't addressed yet? What can we learn from other countries' population policies? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. We are reading every single one, and we will highlight the most thoughtful ideas in our future episode. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and follow us for more conversations on how policy, society, and family intersectionality. See you next time.